Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, extremely grateful to all my very dear colleagues for making it happen. For us, frankly speaking, for the last 6 months, there have been no weekends, busy round the clock, and that's what we can do for our motherland. Extremely grateful to Wase for making it possible, gathering all the bunch of exquisite scientists and other colleagues in the country, and must appreciate Dr. Ijaz Gilani. You were superb, definitely. I think the way you've gone, that was the historical taxonomy, and I must appreciate, I think, the way very deeply you've covered it up. I think one of the things that is happening all around the world, the changes, as you have already mentioned, and we are all experienced. So coming down to online webinars, difference between in-person session and all those things, but that's what we are trying to adjust to our new life. So just to start with, riddle begins with always to identify the unidentified, and one has to deploy the identified characteristics to identify that. And that's what the viral taxonomy do. Identify the previously unidentified viruses through already identified characteristics of the similar viruses. I think Corona has posed a big challenge to the globe. We personally believe such challenges always bring in opportunities as well. And these are the opportunities which we need to cash. And Corona has been such one example where all the nation has collectively fought it under the umbrella of government, the National Command Center, and what not being done at the provincial level, and coming down to the institutional level, everyone coming forward to perform and with dedication. So hats off to all those who have been fighting on the as frontliners, especially the doctors, the paramedics, and all other law enforcement agencies. You made my task easier. I'll just be giving a little bit of brief. In 1918, we heavily talk of the Spanish flu, the H1N1, which unfortunately led to almost 50 million deaths. And moving on to the next stage, the Asian flu in 1957, and then the Hong Kong flu in 1968, and then in 2009, and coming down to 2019 with the spread of SARS. I mean, we have recent example of MERS and SARS-1, which definitely were quite devastating viruses. But I think this COVID has been unmatched, and the way it has caused the global unfortunate morbidity and mortality is unfolding so many other things as well. Now, coming down to the actual scientific thing, forgive me, I'll be, maybe my words sound a little bit harsh, but that's what it is. This coronavirus, why we call it corona? Because of the coronation, it has got spikes protein all around the virus, and they look like a crown. So that's why with that semblance, it has been called as a coronavirus. In realm, it is riboviria with the order of nidovirales, with the suborder of Cornidovirini, and the family of Coronaviridae. So these are the harsh names I was talking about. The subfamily is basically Orthocoronavirinae, and it has 4 genuses: alpha, beta, gamma, and moving on, as you can see, the delta as well. Now, the thing is that we have been facing routine coronavirus infection that belong to alpha coronavirus, that is the 229E and NL63. But fortunately, they don't cause much mortality and morbidity. And among the beta category, we have 2 of those. One is the OC43, and the other one is the HAKU1. But the devastating are starting from the lineage B and C, the SARS, which spread in Hong Kong and onward, and then MERS spreading in the Middle East, and finally SARS-CoV almost all over the world. Among the gamma, we do have the avian coronavirus. Now, this is a bit complicated slide, which I'll just, I will try to sum up the things as early as possible because of the paucity of time. You can see a radar-like map where you can see the 30,000 base pair of this RNA virus. And RNA viruses are unfortunately notorious for mutations. And that's what we have seen, the different strains floating around the globe as far as this corona COVID is concerned. If you see on the left side of the screen, you got the human. Basically, this one shows the homology, the human, the bat, the pangolin, and the civet cats. And if you see the different dot, red belonging to the human side, the blue to the bats, and so on. I would not like to bother much on the scientific basis, but if you see on the right side, you can see these three important viruses, the SARS-CoV, the previous one known as SARS-1, and the MERS-CoV spreading in Middle East, and the third one. You can see the homology as you see the different terminals. We have got the gene, which is the open reading frame, ORF1 and ORF2. And I'm sure the doctor, the medical and scientist, they can understand. But I extremely apologize to all of the non-technical side, because this is a bit complicated things. But I have to explain the taxonomy, so I'm doing it as easily as possible for all of you. So I mean, you can see the homology between these three. There is definitely homology among the coronaviruses, and I mean, as you just said, I mean, why little bit the things coming down. I'll explain shortly what are the things that make it a little bit more resistant as compared to the others. Now, big theories, actual scientific approach, conspiracy theories going all around the world for the origin of this COVID virus. I'll briefly explain. I think bats have been quite notorious because they do carry coronavirus. And if you see the previous ones, you talk of the routine flowing in the viruses which are common all over the world, which are, as I said earlier, are not that dangerous as SARS and COVID, like NL63, 229E, OC43, and HKU1. The first two originated, as you can see on the left side, the natural host has been the bats. And then for the first one, the intermediate host yet to be identified. For the others, llamas. For the third and fourth category, it has been rodents. And from there, coming down to cow, the fourth one, intermediate host is not known. But cats and rodents are known to carry these viruses. We do have these four strains. We have been identifying them at National Institute of Health. Unfortunately, because of the limited data available all over the country, we are presently unable to see the cross-immunity between these four strains and COVID virus. Now, coming down to the previous SARS, which is now known as SARS-1 as well, spreading from bat, coming to animals, and then causing mild to severe disease. MERS, I think, had a huge mortality rate, around 35%, but fortunately remained confined. It started from bats, coming to camels, and then human beings with mild to severe illnesses. Coming to the main COVID virus, we still a huge debate, because a good number of models and studies have been conducted as far as the bat and coronaviruses are concerned. Right now, things are unfolding, but I think we still have many things. We talk of civet cats. Pangolin is yet another example. So maybe from bats coming down to pangolins, or maybe the pangolins were the initial one. So a huge debate, and if they're in question, I can answer them later. But in any case, bats are the most commonly implicated for the time being. From there, coming down to the human beings, because this virus has a propensity for ACE2 receptor that is present, and that is the difference why the children are a bit more robust as they're concerned, because these ACE2 receptors are much more developed in the adults and onwards, and that's the reason they get more infection and more severity of the disease. A little bit about the pathophysiology, which is, again, a very important component. I'll try to simplify. As you can see on the top, the virus entering the lungs, and from there, basically, it goes down into the cells. The viruses cannot replicate outside the cells, so they need the human machinery, cell machinery, for propagation. Now, once they enter the epithelial cell or the macrophages, which are known as antigen-presenting cells, from there, these antigens, they are processed and basically given to two types of cells. The first one on the right, second last, as you can see, are the T cell, and the last one are the B cells. B cells are basically responsible for antibody production, and then they have the memory cells, which stay in the body. If one is exposed to the same virus again, these memory cells start producing the antibodies. And this is the principle that we follow for the vaccination and anti-sera as well. The T cell mediated immunity is now thoroughly investigated for this virus, because it is said that it has got a huge role. And that is yet another factor. We talk of the BCG vaccination in Pakistan and in the region, so many other vaccinations, definitely, which are not being done in children abroad. So there is a little bit role of T cell mediated immunity, which is again protecting us as far as the technicalities are concerned. But again, we are thoroughly putting research forward in this regard, the B cell role and the T cell role as far as the immunity is concerned. Now, how the COVID has impacted the humans, I think very rightly pointed out by Ijaz Gilani Sahab, very comprehensively. But I mean, I'll give a little bit of scientific touch, a bit complicated chart as you can see, but if you see the COVID infection on the left side, then moving on to the direct health impact, it straight away lead to direct morbidity and mortality. But the fear and anxiety, I think it's been amazing, which in turn can lead to stress, boredom. We have truly seen, and I mean, people confined to the homes, if you see the amount of social media utilization and amount of television utilization is been ever increasing during this period. So I would just simply simplify, would say it has. I will. You've given me too less a time from 20 minutes. I'll wrap it up. It's almost coming to an end. The transport restriction, the closure of educational facilities, and then affecting so many other modalities that if you see the SDGs dilemma, it has affected most of the goals. And I would just like to say that the third goal of the devastating effects on the human outcome and indirectly related to education, the gender, work environments, and almost everything. So if you see, in particular, it has economic effects, the social isolation, health-related behavior, disruption, so many things, social disorder, and disruption to education, which are witnessing. We are expecting the colleges and university to start soon, but definitely it has its own tags attached to that. And foremost, I think the psychosocial impacts have been tremendous. So basically, it's the dominoes effect of the global tourism, the travel, hospitality, companies shutting down, and in turn, this affects almost everything coming towards an end. And one thing that is to be unfolded is the chronicity of the virus, and the medical authorities all over the world are continuously watching, and things are evolving for the chronicity. So just to conclude, the corona has impacted human affecting globally in view of contagiousness and the potential causing deaths and so and so, and deciphering the interrelational. Let me say that I think you have already gone through. I would not like to take much of your time. Once again, extremely grateful to all of you. But corona is there for Pakistan. The story is not over. Alhamdulillah, it is confined with Almighty's blessing, but story is still continuing, and we have to be very watchful. Thank you so much.